Praise the Lord, everybody. This is Pastor Derwin Davis. I'm so excited to be with you all on tonight. Why don't you go ahead and hit that share button and go ahead and invite individuals in? For the Lord has given us a word on tonight, and I'm excited to share it with you. So, would you be so kind and so gracious to go ahead and hit that share button? Go ahead and invite individuals in tonight because we're believing God to do something amazing. While individuals are coming in the room, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. On this last weekend, we celebrated 16 years of pastor ministry. Well, it's National Pastor Appreciation Month in the month of October. And so I want to thank each and every one of you that shared love, appreciation. Your cards have literally touched my heart hearing your words. I appreciate all of the gifts and the thoughts and the love that you all have shared. So again, for those who shared with us on this last Sunday and Pastor Appreciation, I extremely say thank you. I extremely say thank you for everything that you have done. And I truly appreciate you. And so I want to thank you for all of your love and all of your appreciation, your thoughts, your words, your gifts, your acts. It was extremely touching. Brother Tobias sent a picture as individuals prayed and laid hands. And I want to thank God for the one and only Jasper Williams III, who came to tremendously bless us and declare a word over my life and our Reach Church family. So I'm so excited for what God has in store. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your gifts and for your prayers for me and my family and what God will have for us to do in our life. So we're going tonight to get into the word of the Lord, and I'm excited. So please, if you haven't hit that share button, hit that share button, please go ahead and do that now, because the word that's about to go forth, we're going to 1 Samuel chapter 30. Please hit that share button. 1 Samuel chapter 30, and we're going to the first verse there. And welcome everybody who's coming on into the room. Go ahead and hit that share button, tag everybody. And I'm excited to share the word of the Lord with you. Let me know who's watching, who's with us on tonight. And so we're excited about what God is about to share. All right. Well, now, so good to see you. The Swints on tonight. Let's go now. We're going to 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 1. It says it this way. It says, "Now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south of Ziklag, and attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire." Verse 2 says, "And had taken captive the women and those who was there from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was. It was burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep." Verse 5, David, two wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelite, Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite, had been taken captive. Verse 6 says, "Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters." Verse 6, the second part of the verse, "But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And then David said to Abiathar, the priest, Amalek's son, 'Please bring the ephod here to me.' Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, 'Shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them?' And he answered him, 'Pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without without fail recover all. Tonight, I want to speak this word that God has given, and I just want you to know that you shall recover all. You shall recover all. Everyone under the sound of my voice, type it right now in the comment section. I shall recover all. I shall recover all. Type it right now. Declare it even out of your mouth. I shall recover all. Eternal, gracious God, our Father, we thank you for allowing us to assemble in this place electronically to hear the teachings of your word. God, we thank you that those that are clicking electronically from near and from far, that God, that you will speak a word to them. The word, God, that is sharper than any two-edged sword. Your word, in which heavens and earth were made, was created by them. Your word, that God, that is in the essence of who you are. Your word that transform our life. Your word that is the bread from heaven that will feed us till we want no more. Let us dine in it tonight, that it may give us spiritual nourishment to build our spiritual man, our psychological man, our physical man, our natural man, and God, build us in our spirit. Let us hear you and let us grow in you. And we rebuke every attack of the enemy that will try to hinder the word of the Lord Jesus Christ from going forth. And the people of God said out loud and typed, Amen. You shall recover all. You shall, you shall recover all. Thank you so much for everybody that was able to share. It's in this text that this text is chronicling something that has happened that is an absolute tragedy. It is the text that is introducing us to a grief. It is introducing us to a loss. It is introducing us to a pain. It is introduced to us to a day that is would be chronicled as a bad day. It's out of this that this day that has happened in the text in Samuel chapter 30 is a day that none of us would ever hope or wish or desire to experience in our life. But what has happened on this day is that David has gotten to a place and gotten home to realize that home has been shaken up, that the enemy has come in and literally has taken captives the wives and the children. David and his men, who are soldiers who were going out to war, realized that while they were fighting there, something happened here. It is at this moment that the truth of the matter that many of us from near and far, from up or down, regardless of socioeconomic, regardless of educational attributions that we have conquered, regardless of where we come from, whatever side of tracks, we find ourselves in situations that happen in our life that while we were making something happen over there, the enemy showed up right here. While we were trying to go forth and make a living, it looked like the enemy showed up and showed his face in one area while you were making advancement in another. And it's out of this moment that many times in life, it causes us to get into a place where we're really hurt by what has happened. Get into a place where it looks like, why is this? Why would I be facing this? Why would I be going through this? But what's amazing about this text is that in this moment of what happened in Ziklag, that how the enemy came in and invaded and attacked, and guess what? Burned the city with fire. They came in, it says in verse 1 that they made sure that what was gone. And I come tonight to talk to some people that have really experienced some things in their life that they've looked out at what was and it has changed. Whether this was career wise, that you looked out at something that was and it was burned and it's forever changed. Whether you looked out at something in your body and what you thought was there, something has changed and it's been burned. Whether it was something that happened in your family that was once there, but now it has been burned. And it's at that moment that many people don't even know how to process, don't even know how to move forward. And what I'm amazed about this text is that God allows the people in this text to show us What are the necessary steps that after the enemy comes in, after bad days happen, after things that should be up go down? He gives us 3 steps that if we put them in place will give us the victory to recover all. I'm going to say it a different way. It's not about what happens, it's about what you do after it happens. I'm going to say it one more time. It's not about what went wrong, it's about your plans and your action steps the after. Can I get enough people to touch right now? The type right now, it's the after that matters. It's the after that matters. It's the after. You can't stop the enemy from trying. You can't stop the enemy from conquering. You can't stop the enemy from trying to come in and do what the enemy has been designed to do. John chapter 10 tells us the enemy comes but to the thief comes not but to steal, kill, and destroy. And so therefore the enemy is on his job. It's not what happens, it is what you do what after. I need everybody under the sound of my voice to touch right there after, after, after. You know why? Because it's after that matters. It's after that. Weeping may be endured for a night, but what? After joy comes in the morning. Are you hear what I'm saying? If God be for me, all right, who can be against me? It's the after that matters. And so tonight, I want to give us 3 steps that can help us process our after you've lost the person that you love, after you've gotten a medical diagnosis, after you've hurt yourself in your body, after you've lost some income, after you've been betrayed, after somebody lied on you, after you invested everything that you could and you find yourself bankrupt, after you've done everything you could help somebody and you find yourself in a situation needing help yourself. Touch your neighbor, say after. So tonight, I want to give you 3 things in this text. And this is important because you cannot control the Amalekites in your life. You in spite of all your protections right now, you probably got rings and Google Homes and you got your army and you got all of this weaponry. They had all of this, but while they were away, this happened. But it's after. Are y'all ready? Y'all ready for the 3 things? These are the 3 things that regardless of any situation you face, after you can transform your life with it. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? So good to see you tonight, Mom. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for the 3 things? I don't care what pain, I don't care how bad it hurt you. I don't care what you lost. You could be watching this right now and you've lost some things in the storms that have come in the last couple of weeks, whether it's literally been the physical storm of the hurricanes, whether it's been an emotional storm, whether it's been a psychological storm, whether there's been a medical storm. The key is after. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Because I want to make sure you got your notepad and your pen. All right. Here we go. Here was the first thing that David them did. It says right here. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Verse 4. Then David and the people who were with them lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. You know, one of the first things that you got to learn to do afterwards is learn how to grieve. And the step number 1 is afterwards is to deal with the grief. You know, some of us, if we're not careful, we'll skip this text. We'll skip what happened in verse 4. Verse 4, This was the worst day of their lives. Their sons, their daughters, their wives had been taken captives. The city had been burned with fire. But the next step, it says, watch this. They wept until they had no more power to weep. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to experience the grief and cry about it and get it all out. I know it's after. God gave us the ability to have emotions, to process the feelings, to process the turmoil, to process the trauma, to process the pain. And some of us try to act like things that have happened in our life really hadn't hurt us. We try to act like, you know what, we can go to fight and we can go back to recover, but you will never recover what you're not willing to cry about what really affected you. And what I love about this text, even in the mightiness and the strength of David and all of his men, they had enough vulnerability that they what? They cried it out. They actually went through grieving until they had no more power to weep. And here's what's important about this. I need you to type this in. Can you be honest about how you feel about it? This is what the text says. Verse 4. They were real they identified the feelings that was associated with the moments and gave them display. They identified this thing really hurts. They identified this thing was really sad. They identified that, you know what, this is really crushing, and they let it out. Can I help us for one moment? How many times have we had things in our life that really affected us, but we tried to go on like it didn't? We had to get ourselves together because we got to go to work, and we got to take care of the kids, and we got to do ministry, and we got to do this, and not really acknowledge that, hey, this hurts, this stings, this is painful. The steps to recovering all is learning to get to a place that, you know what, you can really be honest in your emotions about how you feel about it. And they wept until they had no more power to weep. And so the first step to recovering all is you got to be willing to deal with the grief. The first step to recovering all is you got to be willing to say, you know what? This is how I feel about it. Before I take another step, before I try to sort this out, before I try to do this, before I try to do this, they cried it out until they had no more power. I need about 5 people right now to just type in, you got to get it out. If you got to get it out right there, you got to get it out. You got to get it out because it's the after that matters. Because if you can't get it out, you can't get to your next. What you don't grieve, you can't leave. What you don't grieve, you can't get a reprieve. Y'all hear what I'm saying? You got to get it out. This is not the time. This is not the time for you to try to play strong, try to play like it didn't affect you, try to play like it didn't matter, try to play like you all right. This is not the time to run into your Superman and put on your cape. No, this is your time that, you know what, this really hurt me, and you need to have your verse 4. If it's necessary, they wept, they lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. And some of us can never recover because we haven't had our verse 4. Some of us can never move on because we hadn't been able to actually get it out, right? So that's it right there. You got to get it out. Y'all ready for number 2? Y'all ready for number 2? I told you I'm gonna give you 3 things. Y'all ready for number 2? Y'all ready for number 2? It is right here in the text. Number one is the grief. Number 1 is the grief. You got to be willing to process and flow in the grief. Because if you don't, and don't acknowledge it, you can't move past it. Got it? Y'all ready for number two? Type in, I'm ready. I want to make sure you got it, because in case you need to jot some down in your notes. I really want you to get this. I really want you to get this. Here's what happens when you can process the grief. When you let it out, you can strengthen yourself in. I need y'all to get that. When you let it out, when you get it out, you can actually receive what you need. Here's what happens. In verse 4, they wept until they had no more power to weep. It talks about what he wept about. And David, two wives, Ahinoam and the Jezreelite, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite, had been taken captives. He says, why he's weeping. But then guess what? They were greatly distressed, and everybody's speaking of stoning David, and this, all of them are grieved. They're grieving. But guess what? David, watch this, strengthens himself in the Lord. If you can get it out, now you can focus on what you need to come in. If you can get the grief out, watch this, you can now say, God, you know what? He strengthened himself where? In the Lord. Here's what he says. In strengthening himself in the Lord, because he was able to grieve. He went through the grief. Then David, watch this, said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, bring the ephod here to me. Abiathar brought the ephod to David. I need y'all to get this. The grief was about getting it out. The grief was about getting all of the emotions, all of the feelings, all of the hurt, all of the pain, all of the shame, all of the blame, all of the worry, all of the stress, getting it out till they couldn't cry no more. Now that David has gotten it out, he's now strengthening himself in the Lord. And what he now says, watch this, I had to deal with the grief, but now I want the garment. What is the ephod? The ephod, watch this, is a garment that the priests wore as they went into the glory of God. Need 3 steps I'm going to give you tonight, but this is number 2. You got to learn to grieve, and you got to learn to make a request for the garment. David told the priest, he says, you know what? Bring the ephod here to me. Now, if you know anything about the tabernacle of Moses, and you know anything about the tabernacle of David, the priest wore an ephod. This ephod is a garment that's made of wool. And this wool, they have different colors. It's purple, you have scarlet, and you also have gold. Those are different symbolism of purple, which is of the king, the priestly. Gold is of the divinity, and you have scarlet, which is technically symbolic of the blood of Jesus. So we see there's a lot of types and shadows and symbolism in having the ephod. But the ephod was the garment that the high priest went on when they went into the glory of God. Watch this. David is actually saying in the garment, I have grieved that I got to get it out. But now that I've got all this out, I need the glory to come in. So the fact that he says, bring me the ephod is saying, guess what? I want the presence of God, what? On me. This moment is too much for me, that I now need to clothe myself in the ephod. I need to clothe myself in the garment. That's why the psalmist says he has given me a garment, ephod, a garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Here is why this is important. Some of us will never request the garment until we have actually learned how to go through the grief. But it's in releasing the grief that you realize, guess what? Since I let all of this out, I didn't know all of this was in me, that I got to be intentional about filling it up the right way. And David says, guess what? I need the garment. Watch this, because I got some questions. Anybody ever went through some stuff and you got some questions? Anybody ever went through some things and you were trying to figure out why? Anybody ever went through some things and they're trying to put together there's questions. There's questions. David asked for the ephod. Here's what he says. He says, bring Abiathar, bring the ephod here to me. Abiathar brought the ephod. And so what? Watch this. David inquired of the Lord. He asked questions. Some of you right now, there's so many questions you have, but I must question to you at this moment that the questions that you're asking may actually be keeping you in grief. Because you know what? Let's look at the type of questions that David asked after he requested the glory of God. He said, shall I pursue this truth? Shall I overtake them? These are questions that David is asking about his activity. He is not asking questions about clarity. He's not asking questions about whose responsibility. He's not asking questions about why he's experiencing this disability. He's only asking a question about, Lord, what shall I do? Let's put a pause here for a moment. I need y'all to get this. Some of us, if we had an opportunity to get in the glory of God, we want to know, God, why this happened to me? God, why you didn't stop it? God, why you didn't warn me? God, why you putting more on me than I can bear? Why? Is there anybody here can admit tonight that we have asked God a lot of why questions? When the truth of the matter is, it could be a sign that we still are grieving and need to release the grief if we're trying to figure out why. David, watch this, has gotten over the why question by letting the emotions and all of that go and saying, you know what? Now I want the glory. I want the glory because now if I get the glory, I can now hear what I need to do from God. Because I'm not focusing on what happened. I'm not focusing on how bad it hurt. I'm not focusing on what they burned down. I'm not focusing on everything I lost. David is saying, you know what? I've learned that I need the glory because in spite of what has happened, I have an opportunity to do something next. I came to prophesy to you tonight. You got an opportunity to do something next. In spite of what has happened, in spite of what has went down, in spite of what has went wrong, in spite of your pain, you have an opportunity to do next. You have an opportunity to make a next step in the Lord. You have an opportunity to go after. And David is saying, listen, I know I got an opportunity. I want your glory because what in this next season, since it hurt me so bad, I got to make sure that I'm going to go and get what you have authorized me to go after. Shall I pursue this truth? Shall I overtake them? Watch this. The garment says, I just want an answer from God. The garment says, I'm not going to nobody else. ChatGPT can't give me this answer. A Facebook comment section can't give me this answer. My closest friend can't give me this answer. Mama, daddy, big daddy, they can't give me this answer. My therapist can't give me this answer. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? Your pastor can't give you this answer. There's many times in your life when it comes to the glory of God that you have to now go after God and go after hearing him on what shall I do next. And it's in the glory, it's in the garment after you have processed your grief that you can truly hear from God and put your steps in place. So how do you recover all? Right there. Number one, it's the grief. Number two, it's the garment. But here, I'm over time. I'm normally 30 minutes, but I'm going to give you this in these next three. David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this truth? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him. The Lord said, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them and without fail recover all. You got to learn that in your recovery, there's a grief, there's a garment, and whenever you hear from God, whatever he said, that's a go. Are y'all hear what I'm saying? That's a reason to shout right there. If you can hear from God, if you can, in spite of what happened, deal with your grief, go after your garment, and whatever God tell you, you go with it, you're going to recover. Because that's what he says. The Lord told David after he asked him, he inquired of him, after he encouraged himself, he says, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them. And watch this. And without fail, recover all. So how do you recover all? Process your grief. Go after your garment. When you hear the word of the Lord in his clarity, after you have asked him questions, Lord, what shall I do? Lord, what you want me to do? Not me focusing on what somebody else should do. No, God, what you want me to do? Shall I do this? Shall I do this? Shall I move? Whatever he tells you to do, touch your neighbor, say, go after it. Because whatever he tells you to do, you shall recover all. Whatever God gives you the green light on, go. You shall recover all. Whatever God tells you after you went after his glory, after you went after his garment, you shall recover all. I don't care what you lost. You shall recover all. So some of you got to go let your grief get it out. Others of you done cried till you can't cry no more. Now it's garment time. God, I got to hear from you. God, I want to be in your presence. I'm going to wrap myself in this. I'm going to clothe myself in this. I'm going to warm myself in this. I'm going in your presence. And I'm not asking you questions about why they did this and why it's me. No. God, what's my next step? Shall I do this? Shall I do this? Lord, whatever you tell me to do, go after it. I'm here to tell you, this is October. This is fourth quarter. This is your season to go after it. There's some things that God has for you that you must go after it. The enemy has hit you too hard for you not to go after it. It hurt you too bad for you not to go after it. Everything was burned down for you not to go after it. And you shall recover all. Go. 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 Because what matters most is still alive. Out of this whole text, they burned down the tangible things, but the people were still alive. What this text teaches us is the things that matters the most, the Lord won't let the enemy touch. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? I'm out of time, but I'm not out of ministry. I pray tonight that you receive something from God. And I'm going to ask you, whatever thing you receive from God, type that one thing in the comment section right now. What's the one thing you should share with that you receive from God? Type it right now. Type it right now. I'm praying for those who are grieving. I'm praying for those who are requesting, God, I want more of your presence. I want you, who are going after their garment. And I'm praying for those who made up their mind. They're heard from God and now they got to go after it. Now they got to gird themselves up and say, you know what? I'm walking in this. What did you hear from God? What did you hear from God? What's one thing you heard tonight? Share it with us now. Share it with us now. Share it with us now. As you're sharing, again, I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart on this last weekend. As this is Pastor's Appreciation Month, those at Reach Church shared in your love and your appreciation of me as your pastor. And I so appreciate you. I thank you for the love, the cards that you have written, so that they really touched me in the way, your gifts. I appreciate it so much. And I thank you for everything that you have done. And I'm excited about what God is doing in our life. And so thank you. I'm going to say thank you some more because I really, really appreciate you. And as we're coming to a close, just typing right now, what's the thing that you got from tonight? God is always with me. God is always with me. What's the one thing? What's the one thing? What's the one thing you're taking away from here tonight? What's the one thing you're taking? I shall recover all. I shall recover all. It's the one thing you're taking away. It's the grief. It's the grief. It's the garment. And then there's the go. It's the one thing you're taking away tonight. The one thing, 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 the one thing. Type it. Type it. Now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask, imagine, or think, according to the power that worketh in you. You shall recover all. I truly believe that God is giving us this word for us to stand on our hind feet because we're going higher. Know that this shall be a season of victory. Know that you're going to recover all. Be blessed. And I want to see you this Sunday, 724 Rock Chopper Road over in Lithonia, Georgia. Rock Chopper Road over in Lithonia, Georgia. 724 Rock Chopper Road at 9 a.m. I want to see you there. I want to see you there. I want to see you there. Be blessed. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Go in the peace of God. You shall recover all.